Batman villains that deserve the proper big screen treatment. In addition to the Batman Part 2 being released sometime in 2027, James Gunn is also working on incorporating Batman into his DC universe. Full disclosure, I trust Matt Reeves in the version of Gotham he's trying to create, as well as James Gunn and his vision for the new DC universe. But if I could offer one piece of advice to both Gunn and Reeves, or anyone wanting to make a Batman movie, it would be this: hold off on the Joker. Nearly every piece of Batman media incorporates the Joker in some way, especially since Heath Ledger's iconic performance. People have been trying to recapture that same magic for years. It frustrates me mainly because Batman has other interesting villains besides Joker, though the Clown Prince of Crime is more or less his foil. Today I will be talking about other Batman villains that deserve a proper big screen treatment, or at the very least, a second chance. So, let's begin. Starting off our list, we have Mr. Freeze. Victor Fries, spelled F-R-I-E-S, was once a humble cryogenicist working for GothCorp Labs. But when his wife, Nora, fell ill with a very rare disease, Victor decided to freeze Nora until he could develop a cure. But when the cops and GothCorp found out about this, Victor tried to fight them off, leading to a lab accident gone wrong. He is physically incapable of surviving outside sub-zero temperatures, hence his exosuit. He is also armed with a freeze gun, and he will stop at nothing to save and cure his wife. After Arnold Schwarzenegger's over-the-top performance in Batman and Robin, Mr. Freeze has been kept away from the big screen with a 10-foot pole since. As a Batman fan, nothing would make me happier than for someone in Hollywood to give the character a second chance. Much like how Christopher Nolan and Aaron Eckhart gave us a both comic-accurate and realistic portrayal of Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, to balance out Tommy Lee Jones' comical and over-the-top performance in Batman Forever. I'd highly recommend getting someone like Bryan Cranston or Giancarlo Esposito to play him. Cranston will also be a very good choice for Commissioner Gordon as well. All he's gotta do is the mustache. The Scarecrow. Jonathan Crane lived an isolated and very troubled youth, growing up raised by his abusive and devoutly religious grandmother. He was also mocked and teased by other children, calling him Ichabod Crane, the character from Legends of Sleepy Hollow. While working as a professor at Gotham State University, he became greatly fascinated by the psychology of fear. He then developed a gas, or toxin as some call it, that can make people see their worst fears. He then went on to work for Arkham Asylum, or Blackgate Prison in some iterations, as an inmate psychiatrist, where he used his toxins on death row prisoners, thus giving birth to the Scarecrow persona. Cillian Murphy has already adapted the Scarecrow for Batman movies, but I always found his performance kind of underwhelming, especially when you take into account Heath Ledger's Joker and Tom Hardy's Bane. I just feel like the Scarecrow and Rocksteady's original Arkham games is a much better portrayal. For a new performance, I'd recommend someone like Sam Rockwell or B.J. Novak, Ryan Howard from The Office. Clayface. Basil Karlo was a big Hollywood actor known for starring in classic movies. But when he found out one of his movies was being remade without his involvement, he tried to sabotage the production. As Clayface, another iconic character Karlo portrayed, he'd kill members of the cast and crew, and it's the same way they were killed in the movie. After a chemical accident gone awry, it literally led to him becoming Clayface, and as such, he can make himself look like anything or anyone. Hush. Tommy Elliot was once Bruce Wayne's childhood best friend, but Tommy always seemed jealous of Bruce. You see, behind closed doors, Tommy's father was abusive and his mother was submissive and more or less enabling, leading to an intense hatred of both of his parents. By sabotaging the brake lines on their car, Tommy hoped to get both of them out of the picture. However, Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, managed to save them, only increasing Tommy's resentment. Tommy went on to become a renowned surgeon in the Gotham area on his own right, but he still couldn't let go of the childhood vendetta against Bruce and his family. In some iterations, such as the Arkham games, Tommy would kill people and steal their skin to make makeshift grafts to make himself look just like Bruce Wayne. The Mad Hatter. At a young age, Jervis Tetch became obsessed with Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, so much so that he adopted the persona of the Mad Hatter. This character has gone on from being a comical villain to being much more dark and sadistic. Tetch specializes in mind control, and he would also kidnap young girls hoping to find his Alice. He also owns a hat shop that he uses as a front, and even collects hats in his spare time. Because of that, he is obsessed with adding Batman's cowl to his collection. Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins. Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins, or League of Shadows as they're sometimes referred to, is an organization that taught Bruce everything he knows about combat, martial arts, and stealth. Ra's took Bruce in as a young man, treating him like the son he never had. He also promised him his daughter Talia's hand in marriage, who became greatly enamored with Talia. I mean, obviously they have a daughter in some iterations, or son, Damien. Ra's even chose Bruce to be his successor and take over the League, but a part of the ritual was Bruce had to kill Ra's with his ceremonial sword, and because of Bruce's code, he refused and left the League in disgrace. Ra's and the League's philosophy are that cities like Gotham are seething with corruption and greed, and that no one, not even the Batman, can save Gotham City from itself. The only way Gotham can be saved is by being cleansed, purged and burned down, and then rebuilt from the ashes. Also, Ra's uses what they call a Lazarus pit in order to keep himself alive. With the pit, Ra's has managed to live for over 600 years. To be fair, Liam Neeson did previously bring this Batman villain to life. Although I did not see Ra's al Ghul, all I saw was Liam Neeson. There also was no Lazarus pit involved. I honestly think that Ra's al Ghul from Arrow in the CW universe was a much better interpretation. The Court of Owls. This group of villains is relatively new, having first appeared in DC Comics in 2012. The Court of Owls is a secret society that has been around Gotham since the city was first founded. They are typically made up of most of the city's elite citizens, and they control the city from the shadows. The writers of the comics even made a little nursery rhyme for them. The Court of Owls is watching from inside of Gotham's walls. They lurk in every shadow and rule us one and all. But no one talks about them, not a whispered word is said. For if you try and cross them, then a talon strikes you dead. To understand that, the court uses special assassins, which they call talons, to kill people that don't comply. They also have a leader whom they call the judge or the voice of the court. Victor Zsasz. Much like Bruce Wayne, Victor grew up in a wealthy family and lost his parents at a tragically young age. Desperate to fill the loss in his heart, he turned to gambling and debauchery, which ultimately is what led to him losing his entire fortune and living on the streets of Gotham. Where things started to change was when Victor met another homeless man who pulled out a switchblade and demanded he hand over his wallet. This man would go down as Victor's first kill, and he began his history as a serial killer supervillain. However, Victor does not see what he does as killing people. He sees it as an act of salvation, sparing people from the banal monotony of existence. He also carves a tally mark in his body for every single person he has killed. Aside from this, he doesn't have much of an MO, making him very difficult to track. Zsasz is easily one of the most terrifying and intimidating Batman villains out there, because unfortunately there are people like this in the real world. Professor Pig. Laszlo Valentin was once a brilliant scientist until he suffered a schizophrenic breakdown. This is where he started developing his pig persona. He is a completely obsessive perfectionist, using his traveling circus of strange as a front. He uses that to kidnap people and turn them into mindless, lobotomized beings he calls Dolatrons. The name, and some trivia for those of you that may or may not know. The name Pig actually comes from Pygmalion, the Greek play about the artist who fell in love with his own sculpture. The pig mask thing is just coincidental. Another of Batman's most terrifying and intimidating foes simply because there are people like this out in the real world. Man-Bats. Kirk Langstrom was a brilliant scientist who was burdened by slowly becoming deaf. Much like how Kirk Connors was fascinated by reptiles and their ability to regain lost limbs, and he wanted to incorporate that gene into human DNA, Langstrom became fascinated by bats because of their super hearing and echolocation skills. He began to wonder if there was a way to implant the gene into the human body, therefore curing his deafness and making it a thing of the past for the rest of the world. And also, much like Kirk Connors, there was a side effect. When he used his experimental serum on himself, it turned him into a literal Batman. Man-Bat could be tricky for someone trying to make it seem like Gotham City is a real place, trying to make it seem like there actually could be a Batman. Such as the angle both Christopher Nolan and Matt Reeves took. The Ventriloquist. Arnold Wesker was always a shy and timid man until he came across a ventriloquist dummy that he calls Scarface. And this is where accounts tend to differ across iterations over the years. Some say that Scarface is actually possessed by the spirit of a cocky Al Capone-esque gangster. Others suggest that Wesker has a split personality and he uses Scarface to act out all the dark desires that were deep inside of him. Another villain that could be tough for someone wanting to make a more realistic version of Gotham. Two-Face. Again, Aaron Eckhart already gave us a good Two-Face, but he's still underused as opposed to the Joker. Harvey Dent was once a promising district attorney and was often called Gotham's White Knight, until Carmine Falcone, or Sal Maroni in some cases, another Gotham crime boss, threw acid in his face, burning half his face and leaving him hideously scarred. In his early life, Harvey's father was also quite a literal Two-Face. He would determine whether or not he would beat his son by flipping a coin, which is also much like how Harvey flips a coin to decide who lives and who dies. He also has a split personality and would often bicker with himself. Again, he has a silver coin, one side clean, the other scarred, to decide. He flips in order to decide who lives and dies. He is also obsessed with duality and the number 2. Bane. To be fair, we did get a good Bane thanks to Tom Hardy, but Christopher Nolan took a much more realistic approach. No luchador mask, no outfit, and no use of venom. Bane was born and raised in Peña a prison off the shores of Santa Prisca. Though he is already strong and intimidating, he often uses the street judge venom to give himself even more of an edge, turning him into an unstoppable juggernaut of rage and strafe. And yes, he is the only villain that has physically damaged Batman, iconically by breaking his back over his knee. Robin. Technically not a villain, but he stayed away from the big screen long enough. Ever since Batman and Robin, we haven't seen a Robin in a Batman movie since. Unless you count Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which I don't, by the way. His real name being Robin is nothing more than a wink wink nudge nudge moment. I feel like Robin adds a lot to Batman, not just as a superhero, but as a character. It doesn't matter to me if it's Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, or Damian Wayne. I just think a Robin stayed away from the big screen long enough. And there could also be like some rich moments for like Bruce Wayne is like, I don't know anything about being a father. And then Alfred goes to him and he's like, never stopped me, sir. Or like, he's hesitant about bringing him into the fold. Because Bruce is like, the life I live, that's not the life for a boy. The pain I carry. That boy needs a family more than I can give him. so he's actually willing to help you. And that's basically all I have for this one.